All right. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Do you really quickly want to introduce yourself and let me know what you do in your own words?
My name is John Lahoff. I am a business owner. I own Southwest Labs. It's a independent clinical reference lab in Albuquerque.
Hmm.
Uh, Got a couple other businesses in the past, but primarily that's my main job right now.
Okay. All right. So you're kind of running that. You have you kind of have dove in into the current kind of pandemic a little bit, right? And helping out with that. What are you guys doing right now?
Yeah, so um, we are running both the COVID PCR nasal test and the antibody test, the IgG antibody test.
Okay.
Um, we have all the instrumentation in our lab to do all of that, but still to this day, we can't get the supplies to run in-house. So we
Mm.
have a partnership with Mayo Clinic Laboratories, and fortunately enough, they came out with one pretty soon, the antibody test, and then they offered it to us. So a lot of people might think that as a lab, you run everything in-house, but you don't. That's why they're called reference labs, because we
Okay.
reference stuff to other labs. So we send that to Mayo, they process it, and then give us the results. So we do that plus all the wellness testing, just
Hmm.
routine lab work, and then toxicology.
Okay. Are you hoping to be able to kind of do all that stuff in house at some point? Where are you? You're how long have you had this business, by the way?
We've had it 6 years.
Okay.
So when we started ground up,
Hmm.
um, got some investors and put the whole thing together. We started with toxicology originally, and then we've moved into just routine lab work, and then infectious disease. And now primarily what we're doing is the COVID antibody test right now, and then our core business, which is toxicology, like so prescription drug monitoring is what we call it.
Okay. All right. And how did you jump into that? Because I don't know, is your background in medical testing, laboratory, anything like that? Or are you just
No,
more of the business guy? No.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, so it's one of those things where the right opportunity presented
Okay.
itself, and then we took advantage of it. But my background is sales, and then marketing, and
Hmm.
then starting businesses. So I had a few other businesses in the lab space prior to this. So I got
Okay.
into the medical field doing surgical device sales for Johnson and Johnson through
Hmm.
Team Tech. So it was like orthopedic sports medicine,
Hmm.
rotator cuffs, ACLs, and then
Hmm.
I sold
Hmm.
clinical, like an injection for osteoarthritis. And that was kind of how I got introduced to it. And then a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, you got to get into this, drug testing stuff." And this was almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
Um, and I knew nothing about it. I was a general sales manager at a car dealership. I think I was like 26 at the time.
Okay.
And so I had set up a car dealership and I was managing it. And then I took the job mainly because the salary was more than I was making, with the
Hmm.
possibility to make more. And then I had weekends off, so it was a no-brainer.
Hmm.
And then that turned into a whole string of things that went wrong, and then new
Oh, really?
opportunities presented itself, and
Okay.
then got into diagnostic sales, and then owning, and then management, setting up labs, and then we have our lab now.
Okay. Okay. That sounds like there's a lot of there's probably a lot of smaller stories and components connecting all of that together, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you
Yep.
just kind of gave me the quick rundown, but it's I do sales as well, and more in kind of like SaaS software and different things, right? But it's sales is something that kind of different people come to in different ways. How did you stumble upon it? I mean, did you look out? I mean, when you were younger, being like, you know what, I want to be a salesman.
No, absolutely not. I dropped out of high school, got my GED, moved to California when
Hmm.
I was in my senior year of high school.
And you're from Albuquerque originally?
No, my dad was military, so I ended up in
Oh.
Albuquerque because my dad got transferred. My parents got divorced, and so
Hmm.
literally on a day's notice, my brother's like, "Hey, you want to move to Albuquerque?" And I said, "Yep." And then I lived here for a year in high school, and then I moved back to Colorado, and then told my parents I was going to be an actor, and then dropped out.
Really?
And then,
Did you want to be an actor?
um, yeah, at the time, I mean, but you can only
Okay.
imagine like going to your parents and saying, "Hey, I'm dropping out of school and I'm going to be an actor," and they're like, "What?" I was already getting into a lot of trouble. So I mean, at that point, they were like,
uh, you're like,
I'm
okay.
sure they were like, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you had you tried you hadn't tried it before, or you just something you just like? I know. Hey, so I whenever there's so many Johns in the community that I met you in, so a lot of people refer to you as handsome John. I mean, and you're yeah, and
I'll
it's
take that
yeah,
better
yeah,
than
yeah.
like asshole John or something.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't, I don't think you're an a-hole man, but whatever. Yeah, no, I think, yeah. So like, you're definitely a good-looking guy. Is that pretty much what you went on, or were you
No,
just like, this is something I really want to do. This is something you grew up wanting.
it's kind of like everything else. I look at it and I go, I mean, how hard could that be? I mean, these guys figured it
Oh,
out. I
okay.
mean, how hard could it be? You got to learn some lines. You got to go,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
you audition.
And you looked at it objectively and thought like, you set your goal, your mind to something. It seems like, and you just kind of go for it, right?
Yeah, I don't think there was a whole lot of planning. I think we were like partying one night, and then
Hmm.
my buddy, we came up with this plan, and then we were like, "Hey, okay, you're gonna tell your parents, I'm gonna tell my parents, and then 2 months from now we're gonna move." And then we
And you
just did
did.
it.
So you went to LA,
Yeah,
and
moved right in the middle of Hollywood.
how did that go?
It was weird, man. It was like, I mean, I was still a senior in high school, and
Oh, I mean,
so
technically age-wise, right? Because you had dropped out.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
once I got my GED, like I might have been drunk when I took that, or drunk from the night before, and then I just took the GED, and then once I passed, I really didn't think I was going to pass. Then I told my parents, I was like, see, I had this whole excuse of like,
Hmm.
told you I was smart, and the faster way to go to college and all this stuff. And then
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know, there wasn't a lot of planning. We just kind of did it. And then once we told everybody, it was kind of like, oh shit, we got to do this thing now.
yeah, yeah. So you did. You went out there. And how long were you out there?
I was out there for almost 3 years.
Okay. So were you trying to make the acting thing work?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I had a manager, I had an agent, I had a commercial agent. I had
Okay. So you were
the
doing
first week I
got
was
gigs.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first week I was there, I got to play for. This was in South Central LA at an
Uh-huh.
all black sketch comedy play, and I played the token white boy,
Okay.
and then I was like a gay. It was like a spinoff of some In Living Color skit that I got hired for, but we literally had to drive to like South Central and some dude's
Yeah.
living room to do practice. And then I did that, and then I just was going to auditions all the time. Like I didn't know anything about how it worked, and so I
Yeah.
kept getting pissed that I get called back, and I was like, why do they keep calling me back? And the lady's like, no, that's good that you're getting
Callbacks
called
are good.
back. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't. I was like, well, why didn't I just get why didn't I get it? Why do I have to keep going back?
Yeah.
And so I never like booked anything big, but it wasn't because I wasn't able to go to the auditions. It was my agent got I don't know if she got arrested or
Hmm.
what for embezzling money. I was with
Jeez.
a company called Abrams, Rubloff and Lawrence.
Yeah.
They were a big commercial firm. And
Yeah.
then like the first week I was there, I had to sign this contract, and then like she got in trouble for embezzling money. And so
Hmm.
I was just like, this is weird. And then I was on to breakdancing and hip hop. And then I started interning at a record label, a hip hop
Okay.
record label. And then I was like, this is what I want to do. Like this acting stuff's kind of whack. Like music is where it's at. And so I just,
Yeah.
went full force into that. And I was at that time went back to school. Actually I did a reality TV show on MTV when I was
Really?
18. Yeah.
All right. What was it?
Yeah. Called, this is really funny. It's Becoming Limp
Okay.
Bizkit. So I was the Fred Durst on the Becoming Limp Bizkit
Okay. So what did
circa
you?
like 2001. You could Google it. You could just type in like Becoming Limp Bizkit, and then you'll see me like in the end of the show.
So
This is like a 30-minute show.
what did you? Okay. So what's the premise of that show?
This is why it's really funny, because this is like right when a reality TV show
Yeah.
started. Like right. I mean, I think Survivor was like the main thing, and so
Hmm.
they only had maybe one or two other shows at the time. And my friend had his final audition for some TV show called MTV Undressed.
Hmm.
And we were sharing my grandma's car at the time. So I had to take
Yeah.
him there. And I just
Yeah.
got done teaching a breakdancing class at Beverly Hills High School.
Yeah.
And I was in like sweatpants waiting in the lobby at MTV. And I was filling out this questionnaire that they had. And it was really stupid questions. And I was answering really stupid answers.
Hmm.
And the guy came out, he's like, hey, you here for the show? And I was like, no. And we started talking and we started joking. And then they were like, you want to do the show? And I was like, I don't even know what it is. Is it a stupid reality TV show? And they're like, no, not at all. Dude, it was the corniest. So basically the premise of the show was
Yeah.
they made me out to be like a super fan, like a
Yeah.
Limp Bizkit super fan.
Yeah.
And so like I had won the opportunity to remake my favorite Limp Bizkit music video.
Oh, no way,
I was
dude.
like, yeah, I mean, I like Limp Bizkit, but it's not like
Yeah.
I knew a couple songs, you
And
know.
they didn't care. I mean, they didn't care, right? They just needed somebody to fill that role. And then so you did that. What's
Yeah,
the video?
My Way or the Highway. So it's funny because like my business partner, we'll be in meetings and he thinks it's real funny, like when we're with a group of doctors, just to like bust out YouTube and tell this story. I'm like, dude, come on.
That's too funny,
But
man. That's a good story.
but the cool thing is
Yeah.
we filmed it at the Playboy Mansion, and so
Oh.
I was there. I
Uh-huh.
started talking to the head chef, and he's like, "Hey, you want a job?" And I was like, "Yes." And so basically, I got a job at the Playboy Mansion from like 18 to 20, basically serving drinks at and hors d'oeuvres at every party. So I pretty
Nice.
much for a 2-year span was at every Playboy Mansion party.
So you got to see half. You got to see all the celebs, everyone there.
All the Yeah, this was before he had his TV show. So he had like 7 girlfriends, and the
Yeah.
girl that shot the show that I was on was Miss USA. And so I knew her, and so she would introduce me to her friends, and we would just
You're just
party.
having a good time
And
out there, huh? So I mean,
it was a cool job. I didn't make any money, but
yeah.
it was like
And hold on, you're cutting out a little bit. Hold on one second.
fun.
But yeah, man. So I mean, it sounds like it was a pretty good time. Would you say that in the end it was worth it? Like moving to LA?
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool experience. And like when I was 19, I was interning at Avatar Records,
Mm-hmm.
which was like a hip hop record label. And
Yeah.
then I was going to school. It's a little humbling when you're living out there and you're making $10 an hour, and you know you see a lot of people with a lot of money, and
Okay, cool. So yeah, so it was just crazy. I mean, you were not making a lot of money, but it was a fun time.
yeah, it was fun. I mean, you're 18. Looking back on it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
everything was so new, and you're trying to figure out who you are and all that. So it was weird in that sense. Looking back on it now, it's cool. I mean, I can appreciate some of the stuff I did. I think at
Yeah.
the time I couldn't, but what, 15 years removed, 16 years removed. So yeah, it was cool.
Right on, man. And then so what? You came back. You gave up on that dream, and you came back to Albuquerque after that.
No, not
No.
exactly.
Okay. All right.
So I was working at the record label, and this was right after 9/11,
Okay.
and a lot of people had been laid off. And so the company that I was interning with, they said, "Hey, we want to give you this promotion to be the college radio marketing manager." And so my job was to go to college radio stations and try to get airplay on college radio for the music that we were putting out.
Yeah.
And then they offered me this opportunity, and I just, this is where being young and comes in. I went 100 miles at it. I was just,
Yeah.
this is it. I'm going to be the next Puff Daddy.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I was working all the time, and it was cool. And I was getting a lot of stuff done, and I was charting records really fast, and they were kind of praising me and saying, "Hey, you're going to do really good." And, and then I learned what being a 1099 employee was. And, I felt like I wasn't getting paid. And then, they were trying to tell me their side of the story, and being young, I just kind of gave them the finger and went out in a bang, almost fought the guy that I worked with, and, all this stuff. And so my mom was like, "Hey, you should come on vacation." My uncle had a place in Massachusetts, Hampton Beach. So I just hopped on a plane, went out there, and I thought I was just going on vacation, and I stayed for a year. I left everything I owned in California.
Really?
I'd racked up a good amount of debt.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, shoot, I got to pay my credit cards off. And so he let me live in his basement and paint houses for a year. And then my whole goal was to go back to LA to do music, to stay in that, because I had made some contacts. And then I got back to Albuquerque. My dad had gone and picked up all my stuff, and I didn't have any money. I really didn't have any money. So I was like, I got to get a job. And then I just never left.
So you just kind of, as they like to say in New Mexico, that you landed up here.
I
Uh,
landed up here. I
you
thought that
landed
was
a.
Lynn, but
No, I mean, but as this that tends to happen. A lot of people are just passing through, and then it's a temporary spot, and they end up kind of staying here, right? For one reason or another. I think it's a very easy place to kind of start, and I think a lot of the time people get stuck in that they leave because that gap right between the wealth and the entry level stuff, and but it seems like maybe you found your niche here. I mean, you obviously move from one thing to the next to the next. Would you say that your time in LA and your building and networking kind of skills developed to the point to where when you came back here, it was super easy to just kind of do your thing?
no, not really. I
No.
mean,
Okay.
so I started working construction, and
Oh,
that
okay.
lasted about 6 months. And I really wanted to make money, and I didn't have
Yeah.
a degree, and I didn't
Yeah.
have what you needed. So that was kind of like my goal, was to figure out how to make money without a degree.
Yeah.
And
And you just didn't want to go back to school.
not I know I've tried to go back to school. I've tried to go back like 6 times, but I just never can get past through I can't get through a semester. I just get
Okay.
bored and don't want to do the work, or maybe
Yeah.
that's just an excuse. I don't know. But so that's how I got into sales, because some guy, I was trying to buy a house and they didn't have any credit or any money. I just figured I could buy a house, and they were like, no, you can't exactly buy a house if you don't have a job or money. And so I was like, well, how do I make enough money? The guy's like, well, you
Yeah.
should get into sales. And I said, well, what kind of sales? He said, well, mortgages or car sales. And
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, I was in a suit, and I just thought I'd got a job, and they told me that the guy got fired. And I was driving down the road, and there was a car dealership, and I turned in and said, hey, I want to sell cars. And they said, okay, why? And I said, because I want to make money. And I didn't have a resume. They told me, I went home and I wrote a resume real quick, came back, and I got hired because I had worked at the Playboy Mansion. I was like 20 years old, and I had that on my resume, and they were like, no way. And then they called, and that's why they told me they hired me. So
Really, they're just like, what? Who is this guy?
right. So that was, I think, where I really learned sales, and I
Okay.
learned people
Okay.
skills, and I got some really good training there. And a lot of people bag
Mhm.
on car sales, but if you ever want to learn how to sell, how to negotiate, how to
Yeah.
all that stuff, it was for
Yeah.
me that 2-3 years selling cars was really good foundational training, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people do give salespeople a hard time, right? And a lot of people, I mean, you call them account executives, you call them account managers, you call them a ton of different names besides a salesperson, because it has that kind of the connotation of just like this person who's just going to take advantage of you and try to like shove down something down your throat that you don't need. When in reality, that's not necessarily the case. I think the sales techniques that you learn are going to come in handy in every part of your life, and they help you, yeah, with networking, figuring out what the person needs, your clients in any kind of industry. And then it really kind of helps you, yeah, the negotiation and all that stuff, whether it's formal training or informal training. I think it's a very beneficial kind of how would I put it, um why am I forgetting the word? It's a very kind of talent to have, a good thing to know, right? So it's yeah, I that's awesome that you did learn it that way. And I mean, that's when you moved over to the other stuff, right? The more medical stuff, and took it from there. Um
um Yeah, I mean, I was kind of young and wild, and I mean, I left that job on a
I mean,
pretty.
do you want to talk about, can we talk about that stuff, the young and wild side, or
Sure. What? Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's up to you.
So,
I mean, it's
so I'll just tell you. I'll give you a brief explanation of how I ended that job.
okay.
And it's funny now, and I've since gone back and I've talked to these people, and we've laughed about it, but it was pretty serious at the time. Let's just say I was taking a lot of prescription drugs, and I was drinking a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't sleeping very often,
Mm.
and so I showed up to work on Halloween. They said you could dress up for Halloween, and so I took that literally, and so I shaved my head and I bleached it, and I showed up as Eminem with a pocket full of Vicodin to my sales meeting in the morning, and they were like, everybody was like in a suit. They were like, "What the hell is wrong with John?" And I'm going 100 miles an hour, like, and so they
No
were like,
way.
"Hey, you should probably go home." Um, and so I was like, "All right." And then I came back a couple days later, and they called me into the office, and the guy that ran the dealership was like, "Look, man, we're concerned about you. we need to know what you're on. And so I pull out a couple bags of all this stuff I was taking, and they were just kind of trying to make sense of it. And
Yeah.
somehow in the process, I ended up taking my shirt off, and I had been writing all over myself. And,
No
there was
way.
the night before I was just painting, and I was like in this creative mode. And so it wasn't like I was doing anything. I don't even know why I did it, but kind of freaked them out.
like a moment.
So they were like
memento
looking
kind
at
of
me
thing,
like, like, dude, is this dude gonna like blow up the building or, what? And they were like, John, we're going to have to let you go. And I was like, yeah, no, I completely get it. And, I just got a DWI last night anyway, so probably couldn't work here. And so like, they were cool about it. And I actually, the funny thing is I had bought a house and I'd remodeled it and I'd sold it. And so I just like a couple days before made like $40,000 or $50,000 selling this house, and I was like 24, and so it might as well have been $1 million either way I was thinking about it. And so I was like, cool, whatever, and I just partied for a year basically.
Jeez.
Yeah,
I mean that's one way to do it. That's it.
Yeah. And then after that, I was like, oh man, I got to get another job because I don't have any money, and so then I got back into sales at that point. And,
I mean, absolutely. You gotta, the hustle has to start all over again. That's so interesting. Is that you, I mean, you're sober right now, right? So it's how long, is that when you could decided to kind of get your life back on track, or did it? No. It wasn't the real Slim Shady.
It was not. No, it's funny. These guys look back on it and they crack up, and it was funny at the time, but then it wasn't funny. But, no, it was. I got cleaned up at about 30. I'm 37 now, so I'm going on 7 years clean now. But
that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, it sounds like a wild lifestyle. You did it for a long time. It sounds like.
That's the crazy part. I mean, a lot of people think that drug addicts and alcoholics are, it's just, I don't know, maybe not dumb people, but they're. I mean, you could say
not worthwhile.
I wasn't really functional, but I kept getting better jobs and, pay, and I was able to do these things despite, having that, crutch. And then at a certain point, it gets there where you got to like make some life choices. And, fortunately I did that, but, yeah. I mean, it's, I think there was that stigma around, people who use and who drink or whatever, and it's unfortunate because they just kind of lump everybody into one category, almost like it's a choice a lot of the time, right? And there's I would say certain parts, and I think, but other parts definitely not, which is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate because it I think as a society it definitely prevents us from helping those in need. And we just immediately assume that they're just bad people, and that's not the case, Yeah. Well, I mean, it's certainly helped me a lot now because having employees, I've got close to 60 employees now, and, I call bullshit on almost anybody, like I used to do that. Like, I know you're not sick every Monday. Come on, man. Like, nobody has this many problems. And so, some of those things, they help me. And then also I can relate to a lot of people now, like when they're going through hard times, and, so those things actually really help me now. But, I wouldn't have thought that at the time, but.
I mean, I think it's kind of the whole idea of the, any sort of, recovery or anything like that is like the idea of just like, okay, I want to, somebody took a chance on me, right? So I want to try to help somebody else. And because you did go through that experience, you remember people not being there for you or not understanding, and you want to give back at the same time. So it just, it makes it very easy to relate to people, or spot that BS a mile away. I'm just like, oh dude, I've seen cases where I'm just like, I overhear conversations or I see things and I'm like, there's meetings for that, right? But it's, it's funny. It's funny. It is what it is. You try to be there for people. I mean, I just had one the other day. Somebody asked me, she's like, hey, I'm thinking about finally cleaning up. I'm like, you sure? Cause you've been like reaching out to me for like 4 years. And I'm just like, that's fine. Like, if you are, like, this is where you should go. This is how, it's kind of a weird time to do it right now anyway. But I was like, I mean, power to you. If you want to hang out, like, we can kick it and I can just talk you through some stuff. But, I mean, I think at least what I've learned from that whole thing is that you just have to be available for people, right? Like lead by example, live a good life. Like you definitely live a good life. I think you're somebody definitely that I look up to in the sense that like you're a hard worker, you're versatile. I think you self-deprecate a lot, and just kind of talk
I
down
don't even
about
know what
yourself.
that means. You're gonna
I
have
mean,
to
yeah,
explain that.
yeah, you talk
I
down
didn't
on
go to
yourself.
college,
You talk,
remember?
no, you're, I see it. That's exactly what I'm talking about, man. Like you talk down about yourself, right? And then I'm just like, dude, but like you got so many other things. I mean, you've been so successful. I used to make this joke. I took a couple of MBA classes at Anderson and UNM, and what I noticed right away, because I grew up with a father who was a businessman, right? Mostly just construction in general, contracting. But um, I would see the difference. I said, there's business students and there's business people, and you're definitely one of these people that just like I can see that why you get bored with school, right? It's because you're just like I mean I've got to figure it out. I can do it, and you just need some direction, and you get it done. It seems like, right? And I don't think, I mean, obviously you haven't succeeded in everything, or else you'd be a movie star and a rapper and all everything else under the sun, right?
Right.
But you kind of pick yourself up and keep going forward to the next thing. I mean, so I wouldn't say that like a college education doesn't necessarily equates, intelligence or, intellect and all that. It's everyone's different, right? I mean, what do you think about that? I mean,
Well,
yeah,
I think it takes a while to figure out one, who you are, what your strengths are. And some
yeah,
people get it, they know right off the bat. And I think a large majority of people you have to try different things to find out what you like and what you don't like. I mean, there's
yeah,
having a bad job, you can go back and say, I never want to do that again. You can try something new and
mm-hmm.
then, kind of figure it out that way. And so for me, it was the process of trying lots of different things, making lots of mistakes,
Yeah,
learning through the process. And I would
mm-hmm.
say that's probably the same with, how I've done business too,
Yeah,
is, just working through all those things and then, figuring out, okay, this is what I'm good. This is my lane. And then trying to maximize that.
yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think it's a very unique kind of way to approach life that not everyone gets to do or has a perspective on. I think it's the idea of just everything's a learning opportunity, and that it's okay to let your like dreams or your goals or your career kind of evolve in front of you, right? Um, and just move on to the next thing and just kind of roll with the punches. I mean, it seems like you've made the best of every situation you've been in. Absolutely. You also have a kid, right? Like you have a daughter I see that she's winning a ton of trophies, doing a kind of stuff. How's your life as a father? Is that something that you expected you'd ever be doing?
No, again,
No.
like that's one of those things that just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And no, never thought about it. It
Oh.
just all of a sudden, one day she's pregnant, and what do you
Mm-hmm.
do? Just figure it
Mm-hmm.
out. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, I love being a dad. I've changed a lot, just as a person. And you can't be selfish when you're a parent. I mean, you can, but you have to think about them. So it's
Yeah.
been really cool getting to see my daughter go through things and learn and be able to give her certain opportunities. And there's a lot of joy and say gratitude in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. Being a
Yeah.
dad,
I
I
mean,
think, I don't understand why these men just like bounce out on their kids, because it's like you get to be a kid again. It's so cool. So
yeah, I don't get it. I think like I mean, do you ever get that whole kind of praise from people who's just like, you're such a good dad? I'm just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't like what.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're just doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, so it's the whole idea that, and it sucks. Yeah, there are people out there that just kind of split, and that's a bummer, right? But I couldn't see my life any other way. And it's, yeah, you're right. You get to be a kid again. You get to do some fun stuff. I mean, what's the best thing you've gotten to do as a dad?
Mm. Oh, we've gone on a few trips. I mean,
Yeah,
scuba diving in Florida with my
that's pretty
daughter,
cool.
snorkeling. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um, but it's a little stuff. She's like, Dad, can we go to the trampoline park? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. I was hoping you were going to ask me that.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of stuff is fun. She's turning almost into a teenager now, though, so it's changing. And
How old is she now?
she's 11, almost 12.
Jeez, dude. Yeah. They're getting old, huh? She's in junior high then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Teenagers. And I feel like the girls that grow up so quickly, mine's 8 and I feel she's going on 30. So, but you know, it's fun. It's fun. It's made me soft, just made me loving and all that good stuff. Where do you see yourself kind of moving in the future or doing, as far as business or just kind of life goals go?
Shoot, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, life's got a funny way of throwing curveballs at you. So,
Yeah.
what I'm doing today, I'm just trying to continue to do it every day
Yeah.
and grow little by little. I mean, there's some things that I want to do. I have a book that I keep and a big like sketch pad where I've got a lot of business ideas. I've got a
Yeah.
lot of things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like what I'm doing right now is a foundation for things to come. And I don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
A good example of that is like this whole pandemic. 3 months ago, my idea was much different than what it is today because now it's more survival mode. You're having to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to not go out of business and how to navigate these waters. And then, well, what happens if we go out of business? I don't
Yeah.
necessarily have a backup plan, but the good thing is I get a lot of relief in knowing that, okay, I've done this. I've learned a lot. I have to remind myself I've learned a lot in this process. So if I had to start all over, hopefully I can start faster, quicker, do it better the
Mm-hmm.
second time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take
Absolutely.
the fear away from that.
I mean, are you guys struggling right now? Is that something that's kind of on your mind?
I think everybody's struggling except for, like Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, some of these big companies that the grocery stores, but the majority of the rest of the business people I know are definitely, struggling. There's very few that I know that are like, yeah, I'm killing it right now. And even if you are, it's not something you're going to go and be like, yeah, I'm just, making tons of money.
I
People
mean,
resent
you want to broadcast
that. They'll
that.
hang you, man. They'll come to your house with a pitchfork and,
Yeah,
search it.
yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's something that at least you're using your services and your labs to be able to kind of help people out, right? And I think the antibody testing and all that, I think that's kind of something that came on my radar. I knew I'd kind of asked you to do this before, but that really kind of pushed it to the forefront of my mind because I think this is impacting a lot of people in different ways. And you guys seem like you're doing, obviously, it's business, but at the end of the day, like you're also leveraging your business model and what you guys are doing to try to help people, right? And I think that's important, especially with all of this. I mean, do you have any insight as to kind of how things are going in your field, or as far as
Yeah.
like the world? Are you hearing anything?
Yeah, so I subscribe to a number of publications. I'm in a few professional organizations,
Yeah.
like the National Independent Lab Association as one,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of like there's a publication I guess called Laboratory Economics, and they talk about the business of labs and
Mm-hmm.
across the board, whether it's Quest, LabCorp, Mayo Clinic, big labs, everybody for routine lab testing is down 50 to 70%. And so if you're looking at that, that would be the same for us. Our core business is definitely down 60% at
Yeah.
least, maybe not more. So then, we're making up for it a little bit on the antibody testing. We're really
Mm-hmm.
not doing much of the PCR testing. That's stuff that you can get for free through the state. And I would encourage people to do that. There's no need to pay for that if you can go get it for free. But when all this stuff came out, the PCR test,
Yeah.
because the antibody hadn't come out yet, the PCR test, they were only reimbursing $50. The Medicare fee schedule was $50. To put that in perspective, the flu test reimburses like $96. So you're
Mm.
getting 50% less reimbursement for something that now 2/3 of your business has to focus, if not all of your business. So you're putting resources to a losing proposition.
Yeah.
And so the first 2 months of this, all the big labs that were doing this took it in the shorts. Unless you're like a
Mm-hmm.
hospital lab
Mm-hmm.
that is billing at hospital rates, which is 4 times higher, then maybe you're going to be okay. But, independent labs, there's no way you could cover your costs for something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they finally increased reimbursement to 100, but still the damage was pretty much done in that time frame.
Well,
And
okay.
so that's where a lot of people are struggling. That's where our business is down.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, we couldn't get the stuff to test at that time, and Mayo Clinic wasn't offering it. And so we came to offer it. And I wish I could do it in-house, and I wish I could bill insurances
Yeah.
for everything. but
Yeah.
it cost me quite a bit of money to send it out to Mayo Clinic. And so you're really at a break even if you're running insurance. And then the cash, in the state of New Mexico is one of those states that you can come in and get whatever lab testing you want without a doctor's note. You can't do that in California. You can't do that in some other,
Mm,
there's like 25 states you can do this in. The
yeah.
rest, you have to have a doctor's, referral to go in. And
Yeah.
so we have been looking at this new model even 6 months before the pandemic started, which was direct to consumer lab testing. And, the short and skinny of it is you walk in, get your lab done, pay cash, and then you get your result back. And then you can get on, an app and telehealth, talk to a doctor for $40. And all in all, it's going to cost you less a lot of times than what your co-insurance or your deductible might cost. And so if you
Tell me
ever
about
have
that.
had to go get lab work,
Yeah.
or you spend any time in the hospital, you'll know what I'm talking about. You're going to go, well, what does my insurance pay for? And the short answer to that is it doesn't pay. Every year they reduce what they pay. And so you think that your insurance is good until you go to the doctor and then you get a random bill in the mail. You're like, what the hell is this? And
Yeah.
then you're
No,
like, try to get an
absolutely.
answer for that. Good luck. And so what we're trying to do is just level the playing field and
Hmm.
make it very easy to come in and know what you're going to pay and not have any surprises and be able to get good quick healthcare. Because with the telehealth platform, so let's say you come in and
Hmm.
something was off and they said, hey, you really need to be on this medication. As long as it's not something like chronic, they can just
Hmm.
write a script. You can go in, and now with companies like GoodRx, you can
Oh
go and
yeah.
pay cash for all of this stuff, and you're going to be way better than if you had insurance. Because the way I put it is like, what other expense do you have that you pay $500 a month to try not to use? And $500 a month is cheap for what a lot of families are paying.
Yeah.
Like if you had a house and you can only use it one time a month, and every time you went, you left, and all of a sudden you got like 4 bills saying, oh, you have a P&M bill, you have
Yeah.
this insurance, you'd be like, this is robbery. Well, nobody's really
Uh-huh.
like getting mad about this the way I think they should, because it's such a scam. And when you need it, it doesn't pay for it. And this is just like, look, just come
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
for $100. You can get a ton of lab work done and skip the line. You don't have to go to your doctor, then go to the lab,
Hmm.
then go back to your doctor, then go to the pharmacy. Literally, you just
Hmm.
walk in, get what you want, have a conversation, go to the pharmacy if you need to,
Yeah.
or just do preventative approach. Do it every quarter, see where you're at. And if everything's good, you'll be so far ahead than this traditional model that doesn't work.
Oh no, absolutely, man. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. It's you self pay. Not only you'll get a discount even, right? You get a
Yeah,
discount for self pay, and
absolutely.
pay less overall, because yeah, you'll go in, you'll submit your insurance claim or whatever, and they'll pay for nothing, and yeah, you have to pay for I don't know how many thousands of dollars. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. That system doesn't
And
work.
then they'll
You're
just
absolutely
send
right.
you the collection. They won't even give you the opportunity to have a discussion about what was charged. They'll say, if you don't pay it, we're sending you to collections. Like, where else
Mhm.
does this happen? Nowhere,
Nowhere. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
No, I
So
agree with you, man. So yeah, that makes absolute sense. I'll definitely be sending people your way, man. Where can people go to online? Where are you guys located? How can people find you?
southwestlab.com.
Okay.
Um,
Do you have a
no,
social
no
media
S.
presence?
Yeah, and then 4500 Osuna Boulevard, basically right where I-25 and Osuna meet, where the Wex and the Einstein's Bagels and the way right in that shopping center is our first location. But kind of our long-term goal is we've been piloting this project here, and,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic and the antibody testing really pushed it. We kind of got thrown in the deep water because we hadn't really got done testing it,
Yeah.
and we've worked a lot of this stuff out. So our thought is to refine this here and then open up across the country in different collection sites. So they're more like wellness clinics, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's kind of one of our goals with Southwest Labs right now, is to just it's going to take a lot of education to explain this, but like you got it pretty quick, and I think most people,
Yeah.
once they try it and they do it, they go, oh my gosh, this is so much easier.
I mean, I think you took the route where it's ridiculous that you have to sell, that you talked about deductibles, insurance, and all that. I mean, when you're appealing to that part of a person, everyone's been through that. Every adult human's been through that, and just been through the frustration of being like, what? I'm paying how much a month for this? And then when I need it, you're not paying, right? You still get a bill. So I think, targeting that and that messaging, I think is really going to take you guys a long way. So, I mean, Absolutely. I mean, scale this. I think it's a good thing. I think in the long run it will help people. And if you can be successful at it, I mean, by all means, man. Let me know how I can help you guys out. You said Southwest, no S, to southwestlabs.com.
Southwestlab.com is our website. Yeah.
Okay.
And
And mhm.
Southwest Express Testing is our collection site. But, we also do the traditional model. So we have a lot of physicians that work with us that still send us patients that come with their insurance and their rec form.
Yeah.
And we're happy to do that. We're, a Medicare, Medicaid provider. We're,
Okay. Yeah.
contracted with the insurance companies that we can be contracted with. But we still do, that's most of our business right now. This is more of a pilot project,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see how it's, but been pretty well received. And when people do the conference call with the doc, we use board certified internal medicine physicians that, I mean, when you go to the doctor, you're not going to get a 15-minute in-depth conversation about your labs. They're going to see you for 5 minutes, tell you to go to the lab. And then, when you come back, they're going to say, oh yeah, everything looks good, or it doesn't, but they're not really going to go into why.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what this route offers. It's a lot, and,
Yeah.
the internet, most people can find this stuff anyway, but they just
Yeah.
want to bounce it off of a doctor and make sure that they're on the right page.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then you're not going to get charged $200 just to go in to get a referral,
Right.
which is ridiculous. So, which, I mean, trust me, that's about what it costs.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, man, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Anytime you want to come on, plug anything, let me know. I'm going to hit stop record here in a second, and then we can just debrief really quickly. One sec.
Cool.
But if you're listening, thanks for listening. Bye.